I think if you conduct your own compositions, they become more practical, because we all as composers imagine sounds in our heads, and they only become real when somebody sings or plays them. And that, of course, is the magic moment for every composer. The most thrilling moment is that one, when you're just waiting for the first sounds to break the silence. And I would hate to not have that experience. I've always enjoyed conducting, and the thing about composition is that you do it alone. You have to be solitary. You don't have any companions when you're putting the notes on the page and imagining the sounds. And for me, that's not enough. I need the experience of being with real musicians, being with performers. And so having the opportunity in Ochsenhausen to hear my own compositions sung by an excellent workshop choir, by a lovely girls' choir, and a superb children's choir also, that is what makes the labor of composition worthwhile. And so what I think I would say about conducting is it gives me the motivation to compose. That when I'm composing, I think, well, right now I'm on my own, the room is silent, I hear the music only in my imagination, but I will have my reward later when I conduct. And so conducting for me is part of music making. In the 18th century, in the time of Bach, he would never have wanted someone else to direct his compositions. Composition and conducting were one, really. And it was only in the 19th century that we began to get specialists, composers who did not conduct, like Brahms. Brahms, for whatever reason, did not really, he had his Hamburg Ladies Choir, but he did not conduct big symphony orchestras. He was more happy, I think, in his study alone. But I'm more sociable than that. And so for me, the opportunity to conduct, well, any music, but of course my own music is what I'm most often asked to conduct. That is a special reward. Well, it's gone in two directions. When I was young, there were not very many top-level choirs, professional choirs, terrific cathedral choirs in England, and now there are many. There are many more expert choirs singing to a higher standard than ever before. And I think compact discs recordings have had a lot to do with that, because we hear each other's recordings and we learn from them. And the standard of the best of choral singing has gone right up in my lifetime. But yet, here is the problem. It's like a display of flowers, where the flowers are bright and wonderful, but maybe the plant is decaying at the roots. Because when I travel around the country, in the UK and abroad, I see in the big choirs, the community choirs, I see many grey hairs. And that's great, but I want to see young people also. And so for me, there's a concerning situation, really, that we have to recruit the next generation of singers, not necessarily to be professional singers, but amateur singers who will sing to a high level and spread the love of singing through their community. And it's so important that we have choirs for young people and for children. And there are many good children's choirs, and I hope we will see the benefits of that, because there is a recruitment problem in our large amateur choirs in Britain. I don't know whether that's true also in Germany, but older people know that it's a wonderful experience to sing in a large chorus. I'm not sure that so many young people have had that experience and know that it's wonderful and uplifting. So we have got, at the best, some fantastic choral singing now on a level that I never heard when I was young. And yet we have the big choirs where the membership is shrinking and the membership is aging. And the audiences are older and not so big. And so we have to always have an eye on the future. We must look not just at the flowers, but we must look at the roots to have a future. That's what I think has really changed in my lifetime. You know, it's an interesting thing that we play many recordings of old opera singers. If you think of the era of Caruso and Martinelli and Elisabeth Grumar and all of those, and we still listen to those with pleasure. We do not listen to old recordings of choirs very much, simply because the standard was not so good. We are used to a high standard of choral singing on recordings and in concerts. And that's great because it means that composers can write more challenging music for choir at the top level. And it's always fascinating that a composer like Francis Poulenc wrote some very difficult choral music in France at a time when there were no choirs who could sing it. So he was, in a way, looking to a future which did come, because a difficult piece like Figure Humaine, which needs a very good choir, was impossible in 1944 when he wrote it. But now many choirs can do it at the professional level. And so an awful lot of beautiful music from the past has now been unlocked. And that's changed in my lifetime. We hear an awful lot more, for example, of Renaissance choral music, of Palestrina and Lassus and Josquin and Victoria and so on. Music that was almost forgotten. And now there's a whole new audience for it because we have choirs who can sing it well. And so on the one hand, I feel very encouraged. On the other hand, I feel a little worried that we should do more to build a future for choral singing. Oh, the best answer to that question was given by the great American songwriter Irving Berlin. And he was asked that question, which comes first, the words or the music? And he said, generally, the phone call. And what he meant was that composers need something to get them started. We need a suggestion, an opportunity. Maybe somebody says, we would like something for our 100th anniversary celebration for our church or our college or whatever. Or maybe somebody would say to me, my daughter is getting married, will you write something for the wedding? And so that helps the ideas to start. If somebody makes a good suggestion or offers me the chance to write for a performer that I love and admire, or a group or an orchestra or a choir that I love and admire, that always helps you to get ideas. And then the next thing I do is to ask what kind of a piece do you want? And that will often help with the choice of words, because of course you need to know whether the words have to be sacred or secular, and you need to know whether they should be inspirational or whether they might be sad or reflective, or childish or very complex and adult. So words are important to me, and I choose words with great care. And I think it's the duty of every composer, when you write a piece with a text, to enter into that text, to try and get inside it. And so when I do choose a text, I usually write it out by hand. Even if it's printed there, if I write it out by hand, somehow it makes it mine. And I feel that it's my words that I can work with, you know, though they were written by somebody else. And so, in a way, the words come first, after the phone call, and then comes the music. And if I can't find words that say exactly what I want to say, then I write my own words. But I would only do that, and I've done it quite a lot, I have to admit, I only do it when I'm desperate, when I can't find any words that are suitable. And for example, I was asked to write a hymn giving thanks for the gift of music. There aren't very many texts. You know, a lot of hymn texts were written by clergy, you know, priests, pastors. Maybe they aren't very grateful for music, but they haven't written about it very much. And so that was an occasion where I did write my own words. But words and music are intertwined, and it's sometimes hard for me to remember in a composition, if I wrote my own words, which bit came first. Sometimes I have some of the words and some of the music, then I think of another bit of text, and I think, well, that needs some music, and so I do the music. It's not systematic. It's not like Wagner, you know, with The Ring, where he first wrote all the words, then started on the music. I kind of mix them up together, because words and music for me should be one, sort of just like twins, you know, bound together. And I can't say really which comes first, except that I do think words are important and equal with music. My wish for the future of music education is that it should be at the center of every school curriculum, because music touches every part of us. It is intellectual, it's spiritual, it's physical. And if you make music, you become a better human being. And I wish that politicians understood that. In England, we have a big problem that music is looked upon as something round the back or at the edge, you know, something not very important, a frill. And they need to understand that music improves every part of your consciousness, that if you learn music, you learn so many skills. You learn attention, concentration, leadership if you've ever conducted, teamwork if you sing in a choir or play in an orchestra, and that's so important. You learn how to support people in a work situation, because you all in a choir or an orchestra, you will help each other. And you understand the value of things that you can't measure. And I think one of the great curses of modern civilization is that people are only interested in things that they can measure and put an obvious value on. And the thing about music is that it's immeasurable. You can't grasp it. You can't put it into numbers. You can't say that it will make my attainment 3 points higher. It would be easier if you could do that. We just know as musicians how much good it has done us and how it has made us better people, better citizens, better parents maybe, because we understand how to look after others if we work in music. And we understand that life is not all material. It's not all about making money and getting ahead. It's about fulfillment and humanity, and it's about connection because music joins us to other people. Yes, you can play solo music, of course you can, but music, for me, is something which is social and involves whole communities, and it will bind a community together. Music brings people together, and through that it can bring peoples together. It's international, and I sometimes think the world would be a much happier place if it was run by musicians, not politicians. Well, to write choral music, you have to have choirs that exist you can write for. And the thing that is so important is that choirs get composers interested in writing for them. So I would say to every choir, whenever you perform a piece of old music, think of commissioning a piece of new music from perhaps a young composer. Give them an opportunity, because choral music's like all forms of music. It's not a museum. You know, a museum is somewhere where everything's beautiful, but yet it's all old. And the tradition of choral music must go forward, as it has for 1,000 years and more. And so I think the important thing is, well, first of all, to make sure that choirs continue to exist. And that touches on education and making young people, giving them the opportunity to sing. And secondly, it involves the conductors and those who support the choirs understanding that you must bring new music into the world. And not all of it will be good. That was always true. You know, we think of the music of the past was all wonderful. That's because we remember the 5% that was wonderful. But there's an awful lot of rubbish written. If you look at the composers behind Mozart and Haydn, oh dear, I don't really want to listen to Dittersdorf, frankly. And so we have to accept that we will commission new music and it will not all be successful. Some of it will die. But we do have to invest in the future of music that choirs will love to sing. And I think that's important. Even if they don't love to sing it today, you've got to hope that when they get to know it better, then they will love it tomorrow. And that is, I think, the most important thing. What I most wish for choral music in the future is that it will continue and that it will inspire the people of the future as it has inspired me and made my life better, really, in so many ways. I think that every form of music is good. And my teacher at high school believed that all music was basically spiritual, even if it didn't have a sacred label on it, that music is a spiritual force in our lives. It's a force for good. And if you try to imagine a world without music and without singing, it's like imagining a world with no flowers and no trees and no birds. That it's one of the things that makes the world worth living in. And I think that I could not manage without music for very long. I can imagine it in my head, but if I don't actually hear music, of course, during the pandemic period, none of us heard any live music for choirs, really. And it was a wonderful moment when choirs got together again. The pandemic seems like a bad dream in the past, doesn't it, now? And for the moment it's over, choirs are back together again. And I remember when I first heard my own choir, we were making a recording after the end of the COVID period, and I think I cried a little just from joy. But do you know what? Gratitude is a very short-lived emotion. And so I think a lot of choirs got back together and they said, oh, it's so wonderful to see you again, and give me a hug. And then after a little while, they go back to how they were before and say, I don't like that conductor, or, you know, that tenor is always singing flat. So maybe we should always remember that grateful moment of thankfulness when we were allowed to sing and to hear singing again. And we should keep that in our hearts for the times when it's hard, or when we get discouraged, or it's difficult to recruit singers and to retain their interest. We must always remember that we have something priceless, which is a gift we were all given. Nobody knows why human beings were given voices that were sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses. Why? We could have been made quite differently. You know, I've got a pet swan at home that comes to visit me. We live by the river, and I've called him Rufus, the swan. He's a beautiful creature, and I've been trying to teach him to sing. He can't sing. You know, he goes, or he goes, but no musical sounds. So poor swans, what they're missing. And yet there's a little nachtigall, a little nightingale singing so beautifully and musically. So let us all as human beings be like the nightingales, not like the swans, even though they're beautiful.